I'm Ric Edelman. Have you ever noticed that some people simply cannot save money? And does fitness guru Denise Austin think that health is related to wealth? And on the flip side, have you ever thought about prepaying for your funeral? All this and much more on this week's edition of The Truth About Money.
Best-selling author and founder of one of the nation's largest financial planning firms, Ric Edelman.
It's the ultimate party, but you won't be there. Let's find out from my colleague, financial advisor Brandon Corso, how arranging your own funeral can be, believe it or not, fun.
Most people don't know that they can pre-plan. I didn't know before I came to work in the industry. I thought if you bought your cemetery plot, that was it.
Right.
And that's what my family has always done. But that isn't the case. Pre-planning of a funeral is a way for families to pre-arrange exactly what their wishes are, and they do it for financial and emotional reasons. Unfortunately, deaths, just like weddings, big events in people's lives often bring out the worst in people. And your son wants you cremated, and your daughter wants you buried, and your daughter wants you up in Maryland, and your son wants you down here on his shelf.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, where do your wishes come into play? Because they're not thinking straight because they just lost you.
It's the last thing you want your family to have to deal with when they're already grieving.
Exactly, and also they'll have to deal with the financial arrangements.
Can you give me a range for what that cost might be?
Well, it depends on your choices. For instance, if you're going to be actually buried and have a viewing and you need a casket, caskets range from about $900 to about $25,000.
Wow, it's a huge range.
It makes a big difference
Okay.
with what you choose. Also, if you're going to be cremated, you won't need, your memorialization costs less. Urns generally range from $95 to about $500.
Victoria, what are some decisions people can make to keep the costs down?
Well, first, pre-planning. That's the most important decision.
Is it because you're locking in today's costs?
Exactly. You're locking in today's cost, and you're giving yourself the option of making payments over time.
What are some trends you're seeing today in funerals?
The biggest and most interesting trend that we're seeing in funerals is a desire for our families to celebrate the lives of our loved ones. During or after the funeral service, we provide food and refreshments and colors that they like and things like Dixieland bands and balloons and crossword puzzles, so they can really celebrate the time that their loved one was with them and remember all the good things.
Victoria, thank you very much. You taught us an awful lot.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Brandon, if there's anything I can think of where I should have my own way, it's my funeral.
Well, isn't that the truth? And we talk to our clients about this, and so I was excited about this segment. Unfortunately, we see people really procrastinating this. But if you don't pre-plan, I can assure you the chances of it happening the way you want it to are pretty darn slim.
It's going to happen the way your kids want it, or worse, they're going to be fighting about it, just like we saw in the segment.
And that's what happens. If you have multiple children and they're trying to decide what's important to you, you haven't told them, all of a sudden fights start.
So we have two things going on. First is the way to make sure that we have it our way, of celebrating as opposed to mourning in the fashion of our desire. And second is to help our families avoid the financial strife that comes with the emotions that they're dealing with.
And I think emotions are the word, because let's face it, you've lost a loved one, and that's painful. And if you don't have a plan on how you're going to tackle the memorial and the funeral, that's when problems start.
How common is it for people to pre-plan?
They said about 30 to 35% of the people, and I was down there in Florida, is what they're seeing today.
So 1 out of 3 Americans have made these arrangements. What do you bet that those who've made arrangements have failed to tell their families that they've done so?
Well, and that's a big fear, because if you've made the arrangement yet you haven't told your children, or where documents are that might explain your wishes, then it might fall through the cracks.
They'll buy the second casket and another funeral burial plot because they haven't realized you already took care of it.
And communication is the key. Taking the time to sit down to say, hey, what is it we want? And then communicating with the children.
And I'm wondering, should people start having the these funerals before they die so that, in fact, you do get to go.
Well, now it's really a party. Now you're talking.
I think that's what I'm going to do. Brandon, thanks.
You bet.
What is the average monthly cost of a private room in a nursing home? $6,500, $5,500, $4,500, or $3,500? We'll be back in just a few minutes with the answer.
At a recent conference, investment advisors were asked just one question. What do they think about China?
China is an economy that is going to grow and at some point be a much larger economy than the United States.
China is an important part of the globe, and as a result, that growing economy is going to reap wonderful profits for many people around the world. So it should be a component of everyone's portfolio.
I think China's something that we're going to have to deal with, and I think that we should have part of, people's strategies invested in China.
China's going to be an emerging place for investments. I think it's not going away. I think it's something we need to consider in all client investment portfolios to varying degrees.
China has an aging population. They have some difficulties to overcome, and we have some areas where we can fulfill a need for them. So their growth is our growth.
Keep your eyes open. There's stuff happening there.
China's certainly a big part of the world economy. I think sometimes it gets a little too much attention in the United States overall.
What is the average monthly cost of a private room in a nursing home?
It's, I believe, maybe around $2,000 a month.
Maybe $1,500. Per month, probably $2,000.
The average monthly cost of a private room in a nursing home is $6,500.
We're going to talk with Al. Al's calling from Clarksville. How you doing, Al?
Hi, I'm doing fine. I'm 65 years old. I have a fair amount of money in a regular IRA, most of which was rolled over from a 401k. About 75% of my retirement funds are in there, about 25% in a Roth IRA. As I approach 70 or 70 and a half, I'm concerned about the required minimum distribution. I don't want to have to take that much out necessarily. So I'm wondering, should I take advantage of some of the market lows and move some of those funds periodically from the regular into the Roth, knowing that I have to pay taxes at that time? But if these are mostly in equities right now.
That's an interesting. That's a really interesting conundrum. You don't want to incur taxes, so you therefore want to pay more in taxes than you otherwise need to.
But if the market drops and my stocks drop, then I pay less taxes now than I would when the market rebounds and comes back, and I'm required to take.
So he's trying to arbitrage the market against tax rates. It's a really interesting conundrum. So
it is. I think it's unfortunately. I think you're not going to actually be able to know that it's the right thing to do until after the fact, because you're going to have paid all of the tax up front, as opposed to a required minimum distribution, which is about 3.4%. When you turn 70 and a half, you have to take 3.4% of your IRA out,
it's a very
as opposed to 100% of your IRA out.
Al, how much money do you have in traditional IRAs?
Approximately $750,000.
All right, and so if that's the value when you hit 70 and a half, you're going to have to take out about $30,000. So that bothers you when we put that on top of your other income? It's going to kick you up to a bracket that you're uncomfortable with?
Well, yeah, I have a pension income and Social Security, and my wife has some income, and so it all adds up.
Yeah.
We can do the math for you to analyze exactly what the tax liability will be if you do it one way versus doing it the other way. I am very skeptical that pulling the money out of the IRA, transferring it to the Roth to pay the tax now so that you don't have to pay a higher tax later will work. And I'm skeptical not only because I question whether or not it's advantageous to pay that big of a tax bite now, because it means you have that much less to invest now, which means you have that much less to grow later, but you're also assuming the future tax rates are going to be high or higher compared to today's. And I don't know that that's true. So recognize you're speculating now on what might happen. If everything works as you're anticipating, sure, go ahead and do it. But the likelihood of success is not something I'd be willing to use as a basis for telling you to go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you.
I became a landlord last summer. Yay. Rented out my condo with dreams of moving to New York and becoming a star. Winded up with a squatter who hasn't paid me in 7 months. Staging her own Occupy movement in my condo. I had no idea it took so much to evict a person. I don't know if any of you guys own rental properties. So all the laws are in the renter's favor. And did you know this? You can't evict someone when it's below 32 degrees. I am so grateful for global warming, I can't even tell you. I mean, I feel bad for the polar bears and stuff, but this chick has got to go. Yes.
Hi, Rick. I'm wondering what it is about money that attracts itself to certain people, and likewise how other people seem to never be able to get enough of it.
You know, that question has mystified millions of people for ages. We all have a member of our family or an old college buddy who never seemed to be able to save any money. Oh, they made money, they have money, but they never seem to hang on to it. And by the way, if you don't know of anybody like that in your family, that means you're the one in the family with that problem. What it comes down to is this. We've been trying to figure out anecdotally for years, why is it that some people are just no good with money? They can't seem to pay their bills on time. They're always in debt. No matter how much money they have or come into, it vanishes in no time. Well, the Journal of Finance has the answer. In a landmark, groundbreaking study published in December 2011, they came up with the answer. In a major study that corrected and controlled for all other external factors, age, occupation, where you were born, whether or not you're married, all other kinds of factors, controlling for all of those, they were left with one factor that determined whether or not you were likely to be a saver: IQ. So it's true, people who are savers have higher IQs than people who don't. Your brother-in-law really is an idiot. That's good news for all of us, because it means that if you are saving and investing, you're intelligent. We've now got academic proof, thanks to the Journal of Finance. And oh, by the way, when your brother-in-law wants to argue about it with you, just point him to that academic journal.
Some people make too much money. I think some people make way too much money, like athletes. These dudes get way too much money. Like, they're extremely talented, but it's way too much money. I heard the other day some dude got fined $19,000 for pushing somebody. 19 grand. And he paid it like it was nothing. That's my student loans right there. I'll be following that dude around trying to get pushed. Just talking smack the entire time. Think about it. He pushed me once, my student loans are gone. Push me twice, I'm completely debt-free. Push me 3 times, I'm a small business owner. That's the American dream right there. We are all one push away from financial freedom.
My question is about college savings, and I'm aware of the advantages of the 529s, but let's just say that you don't want to tie up your money so that it can only be used for educational purposes. As alternatives, I'm wondering what you think about perhaps putting money in like municipal bonds, which would in most cases not be subject to federal tax, even if they weren't in your state. And then you could always gift members of the family, okay, when the kid gets ready to go to college. I think it's like up to $13,000 a person, okay, for each in any given year. So it doesn't appear on their taxes.
Back up. Hang on a second.
Yes.
Because you know a little bit about this. Congratulations, you've just intimidated the rest of the audience.
Are we talking about your children or nieces and nephews?
I'm talking about grandchildren.
Grandchildren. And you are wondering that you might not want to use the money for education at some point, and that's why you don't want to be so restrictive with the 529?
Yes.
Why are you thinking you don't want to use it for education? Do you think the kids might not go to college?
No.
Do you think that the kids might not need the money for college?
They may not need it, and...
Do you think that maybe you're not going to like them very much at age 18?
No, so far I like them, okay.
See, these are 3 very good reasons for not contributing to a 529 plan for college. The kid might not go to college, doesn't need the money. The kid might not need the money because they get scholarships or grants or what have you. Or, quite frankly, you might not like the kid by the time the kid's age 18. And if you think that's kind of funny, keep in mind that these aren't your kids.
Right.
These are your grandkids.
Right.
And if there's a divorce, you might not see this child ever again, depending on the dynamics of the family. We have seen this in our financial planning practice where grandparents haven't seen their grandchildren in 15 years. There is no relationship because of the estranged relationship of their children and their exes. So all of those are valid reasons for saying, do I really want to do this? There's a 4th reason too. You might need the money.
Yes.
You might discover that in 10 years, you need the cash, and you're going to regret the fact that you gave it to this little upstart. So, spoiled little rotten kid who doesn't really appreciate it. So these are all very valid reasons to second guess yourself, to really wonder, do I really want to set this money aside?
Plus being a control freak.
You think? So what we need to do is put all this into proper context. Number 1, talk with the parents of the child. And let's find out what they're doing for college planning. And although you might be quick to say, oh, I know my kids and they don't really have enough money to pay for college or set money aside for it, they have something that you're not really giving a lot of credence to. They have another set of in-laws. So let's see what the other pair of grandparents might be doing, and let's see if we can't develop a coordinated effort here to, on a family-wide basis, figure out what is really necessary for each of these kids, because you've got a few children, but the number of grandchildren grows exponentially. So you might have, well, tell me in your case, how many grandchildren are we talking about?
2.
2 so far? Any more on the horizon, possibly?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you think we're done at 2. So we really need to figure out what are the available resources, who's got money other than you, what do the other side of the family have available, what does mom and dad have available to do, and what's the overall attitude about this? Now, what happens if I need the money for myself? Well, you still control the account. It's in your name. The child's merely the beneficiary. You can withdraw the money and you'll simply pay taxes and a 10% penalty. So that's okay. It's still there available for you. We'd rather not incur that, but you still get to keep the bulk of the money. On the other hand, what if the child doesn't need the money to go to college for whatever reason? They don't go to school or they don't need the cash or what have you. You can take the money and leave it there for the grandchildren's children. Mm-hmm. Now you have intergenerational tax-deferred growth. Pretty cool. And ultimately, if you don't even want to do that, you take the money back and you go to college. You don't have to matriculate in a degreed program. You just have to have a course paid for that is sponsored by a accredited college. For example, Georgetown University has summer programs studying archaeology in Egypt. That counts. So you can use the program for yourself while preserving the tax-free withdrawal provision under the tax code. So lots of benefits, lots of different ways to do this. Go ahead and talk with the family, but I think at the end of the day, you'll discover 529 plan wins.
Is Wall Street in the service business, or does it manufacture products? Not sure? We'll be back with the answer in just a few minutes.
For more than 25 years, Denise Austin has been one of the nation's biggest fitness proponents. She's sold more than 20 million exercise videos and DVDs, starred in fitness television shows since the 1980s, and has written 10 books. I've only got 7. Denise has also got an online diet and fitness program and has no signs of slowing down. Denise,
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being with me today.
It's great.
Do you discover any correlation between physical fitness and fiscal fitness?
Honestly, I think if you feel good, you have confidence to go out and get the job you want, enjoy the job, and the key is to do what you love and take it all the way.
All the academic data tells us, the census data and all the studies show us that as people improve their physical fitness, they do improve their financial fitness as well. They go hand in hand. You would be a huge advocate, of course, of telling people not to smoke.
Oh,
my attitude as a financial advisor is that if you stop smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, you'll accumulate $2 million in retirement that you otherwise would not have had.
I love that quote.
So
that's awesome.
Clearly there's a correlation, and that's why we're talking with Denise about this very subject. So it comes down to personal motivation, persistence, commitment and confidence in your own abilities to do this.
That's right.
And all of those are parallels that apply very much to personal savings and investing as well.
That's it. I'm a big believer in saving. I save. I was brought up to save your money.
Now, you had to engage a lot in investing in yourself, not just your own physical condition and your time and money. It took a lot of effort you had to take a lot of gambles financially to produce the DVDs you do and the books and going on the road and spreading the word. Tell me what that was like and how you felt about taking those kinds of financial risks.
Well, honestly, when I go on the road, I do a lot of times pay for my own flights and but I know I'm going to get something, residual effect. Maybe someone will buy my book or a DVD. So I'm always knowing, I'm investing in myself and knowing that it's going to pay off. So to me, it's worth every penny. And
so your message in physical fitness is don't try to do this all by yourself. Rely on those who know how to do it, who can teach you the exercises, show you how to do them correctly.
You need a blueprint. You need a plan, especially, if you want to lose weight, you need to have a plan. A home wouldn't be built without a blueprint. So if you want to lose weight, there's got to be a plan. You've got to say, okay, I'm going to wake up and work out. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, you've got to start somewhere.
And there's another identical pattern there with financial planning, because we argue that it doesn't take a lot of time to be a successful investor or saver. You don't have to be glued to the TV to paying attention to the markets minute by minute. A very limited amount of time can produce outstanding results. So there are so many similarities between health and wealth. It's just invigorating to see.
Yes.
Denise, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Rick. So fun.
Is Wall Street in the service business, or does it manufacture products? Wall Street is not in the service business. It manufactures and distributes products called investments, which are sold by brokers, bankers, insurance agents, and financial advisors.
Before we go, we learned that more and more funerals are about celebrating the life of the deceased, not just mourning their passing. Maybe it's because we're living longer, and that's in part because of people like Denise Austin, who help us get fit and stay fit, well into even our 80s and beyond. But living a long, fulfilling life, well, that's not just going to happen. It depends on you. You need to pay attention to your health so that you can do all the things that you've dreamed of. Exercise your mind, too, so you can get the maximum enjoyment from hobbies, friends, and family. You're going to live a lot longer than you expect, so get ready to get the most from every single day. That's the truth about money. I'm Ric Edelman. See you next week.